All right. Well, whether you realize it or not, you probably have a relationship problem. Now, how do I know that? Because most of us in our life, we have some challenges with people that we have relationships with. Those might be employees, it could be family, it could be friends. But if you think about the different relationships that you have, some of them are probably challenging. And so, at the root cause of everything, you actually have a relationship problem. And the problem is usually you. Now, I understand that we don't like to admit that. I don't like to admit it either. But in this video, I want to go through and talk a little bit about that because of a conversation I had with someone this week. And so listen in because you're going to find a lot of value from listening to this video. Now, just like with any live video, if you're here with me live, put something in the comments area so that I know that you're here. And as I go through and I'm talking, if you have questions or comments, again, feel free to put those in the comment area so I can see them come through and that I know that you're here with me. So it's not just me talking to myself. It's always more fun talking to other people, right? Okay. So let me jump in and talk a little bit about the relationship problem that you probably have. Okay. Now, I was talking to an executive this week, and this person was having some issues with a couple of employees. And so we started getting in and talking about, the what was going on, a little bit more about the particular employees, and realized as we got in and got talking about it a little bit, I said, you know what? The problem is you have a relationship problem. And they said, what? What do you mean? Right? No, it's a problem with my employee, right? Well, it's a problem with the relationship because you don't have a strong enough relationship. That is what's leading to the problem. Okay. And so let me give you some details on this so you can kind of understand what I'm talking about, and then I'll talk a little bit more about how you can overcome those, right? Because I'm sure you don't like having challenges in your relationships. I don't like having challenges in my relationship either. And so a lot of this goes back to the habit that I've been talking about of, developing relationships, and focusing on relationships is one of the habits that you need to have in order to be successful and to feel confident in life. Okay, so back to the story with this executive. Okay, as we were talking about this one particular employee, it was a new employee who's only been there for about 4 months. 4 months. Okay, brand new employee. Now, in 4 months, obviously you don't have a very strong or deep relationship, usually with someone that you've only been working with for a couple of months. Now, what was happening is this employee was, doing some things that the leader didn't really like. Okay, maybe overpromising, saying that they could do all of these different things when the leader knew, in fact, that wasn't possible, right? And so as we got in and we talked a little bit about it, part of the problem is this new employee is trying to impress the new boss. Totally normal in a situation like that, right? You want to come into a new position, you want to impress your boss because you want to keep your job, right? That's just normal human behavior. The problem is because this employee was new and didn't have a strong relationship with their boss, the employee didn't really feel like they could have these authentic or open conversations with the boss, right? And this gets back to some of the stuff I've talked about with imposter syndrome and other things is we tend to want to show other people or make it appear to other people that we know what we're talking about, even when we don't know what we're talking about, because we're afraid that if they find out, right, that they're not going to like us. That's some of that imposter syndrome that I've talked about before. Now, here's the reality, right? The boss didn't care, right? The boss wanted to have these kind of conversations with the person and wanted the employee to feel comfortable coming forward, talking about some of those things. Now, why was the employee not willing to do that? Because the employee didn't have a strong relationship with the boss yet. Okay. And so because of that, and this is why I say you have a relationship problem and you might not even realize it, is because those relationships are not deep enough that people feel comfortable actually having those conversations. Okay. And it's normal, like I said. But what it means is we have to have that habit of being diligent and focusing on developing the relationships. Because when your relationship is good enough, you can have those open and honest communications. Okay, so just as a reminder for those of you that are here with me live, go ahead and post something in the comments so that I can see that you're here. And if you have any questions as we're going through talking about this, or even if you're like, yep, I totally agree with you, Jason, let me know that too, right? I like a little feedback, just like everybody likes a little feedback. Now, I also told you that usually, right, when we have these relationship challenges, we are the problem. Okay. And I know, again, we don't like to admit that. I don't like to admit it. But usually, what happens is when we have relationship challenges, we think the other person is the one to blame. Now, anytime that you point your finger, okay, so I'm gonna do this little exercise for you, right? If I point my finger forward, look at that. I got three fingers pointing back at myself. So anytime that we feel like we want to blame other people, that other person is the one who is responsible, they're the ones that's causing the challenge in the relationship. Here's what I'll tell you. No, you're pointing one finger, but three fingers are coming back to you. So what does that mean, right? Well, again, as I was talking to this leader, the point was this leader had not taken the opportunity to develop and focus on that relationship, hadn't done some things, hadn't had those conversations with the employee that they probably should have had in the first 4 months. And that is what has led to some of the problems. And I get it. I understand, right? Anytime that we have challenges in relationships, we think it's the other person. Because whether you realize it or not, when we have challenges, we move back into what's called victim mentality. We tend to believe that it's the other people, it's the circumstances that we're in that are causing these relationship issues, but it's not. Okay. The way that you are reacting, the way that you are responding is usually what is causing those relationship issues. Okay. And so, again, most of the time, relationship challenges, and again, I'm talking about this could be, I'm giving you an example from an employee, but this could be employee, it could be family members, it could be friends, it could be a partner, a romantic relationship that you're in. Most of the time, when you have challenges in those relationships, it comes down to a couple of reasons. Okay, so let me share those reasons with you because what I want you to be able to do is be proactive. Go out and actually change this. Because I said, look, you're probably the problem. Well, if we realize that, if we accept that, now we can actually do something about it. We don't have to put blame on anything. We don't have to blame anybody. We can just choose to do things different going forward. Okay. So, one of the root causes is we don't have a deep enough relationship with that person. Okay. And that's because most of the time, most of our relationships are pretty superficial. We tend to talk about the weather or what's going on in the news, right? And we never end up actually getting to know or develop a true human relationship with the other person, which means we're going to have to get a little personal. And especially in a business environment, a lot of people think, well, I can't do that. I can't ask that. I can't know that. Bull. Okay. You need to know a little bit about the other person. What's their partner's name? Do they have children? What are the hobbies that they have? What do they enjoy doing? Right? Where have they lived in the world? Those are all things that we can know about and that we should know about if we have a relationship with someone. Okay. And again, workplace, non workplace as well, right? We need to understand and get to know them authentically because, one of the things that people really want is to be seen and to be heard. And the only way that you can do that is to actually get to know them. see them for who they are, right? And so again, it's like the relationships that I have, it's the same thing. I know thousands, tens of thousands of people, right? But how many real relationships do I have? Not that many. Why? Because most people aren't willing to open up, to be vulnerable, and to actually get to know me as a human being. Okay. So, one of the root causes usually is, again, you don't have a deep enough relationship for whatever it happens to be that you're talking about. Okay. So do some things, get to know the person, do things for them, right? Ask them, talk about things that are important to them so you can actually get to know them better. Okay. So that's one of the root causes. Another one is how we are communicating. Okay. And that's because, again, there's a sender. I'm sending you a message right now. You are the receiver. You're receiving it, right? So there are certain things that I can do as the sender to, excuse me, make it more likely for you to receive the message. Okay. Every so often, when I'm doing one of these videos, I'm going to use my hands, right? If I say there's three things, I'm going to hold up three fingers. Now, why am I doing that? Because the communication medium that we are using, a video, allows you to see me. You can see if I'm smiling. You can see if I'm frowning, right? You can see if I'm holding up three fingers. The communication medium is important. Now, again, one of the things back to this story that this employee had done was sent an ultimatum to someone else in the organization via email. You will have this done by October or else. Now, is there anything wrong with saying that to somebody? No, not necessarily, right? But email is not the right communication medium to send that sort of a message. That's something that needs to be done face to camera, right? Again, if we're remote and we can't talk to somebody in person, it would be best to do that in person. But if we can't do that in person, then we choose the next best communication medium method. That's maybe like this, right? Video, face video camera type of thing. Because, again, as I said, and especially depending on the importance of the message, the more important it is, you don't send people a text. You don't send people an email for certain conversations. So if you're doing that, don't be surprised if you have a relationship issue because you're the one that is not communicating the way that you need to be communicating. Okay? So again, that's another one of the reasons why we often have challenges in our relationships because of the way we are choosing to communicate, what we're saying, how we're saying it, and the method in which we're doing it. So again, I want you to think, again, if you're dating somebody or maybe a romantic partner, that you're in a relationship with, same thing. Imagine if you need to have a difficult conversation with that person, would you just send them a text? That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Would you want to receive a text from someone for a conversation like that? I'm guessing probably not, right? Okay. So I'm going through talking. I know there's some of you that are on here live with me. If you are, make sure and post a comment in here so that I know that you're here. If you've got questions on some of the things that we've been talking about, then let me know as well. Okay. Um, so we went through. We talked a little bit about a couple of the root causes, right? One is that you don't already have a deep enough relationship to begin with. And again, part of that is there's going to be times, I use the analogy of the emotional bank account. So imagine that I've got a jar and I'm putting coins in this emotional bank account. Every time you have a good interaction with someone else that you're in relationship with, you're adding coins to that jar. Okay. And over time, you're establishing or making deposits in that emotional bank account. Now, At times, there's going to be discussions or conversations that you're going to have that are going to effectively remove some of those coins. Okay. And as long as you have more coins in the relationship than you're withdrawing, you're probably not going to have too many relationship challenges. But the problem is, if you haven't been depositing those coins and developing those relationships, when those things happen, you bankrupt your relationship. And that's often what happens and why it leads to people getting divorced, breaking up, doing whatever it happens to be, right? Because the withdrawal is more than what you have put into the relationship. And again, that's something that you control. If you're not putting those deposits in, you're to blame if there is a relationship challenge. Okay. The other one is the communication method that you're using, how and what you're saying, how you are delivering, which communication method or medium that you are using is also, right? That's something, again, that you have to be responsible for. So, again, if you're having challenges with employees, with family members, with friends, think about how can I communicate better? Because again, a lot of times the communication breakdowns are our fault. Okay. The sender, whoever the one that is sending the communication method, it's your responsibility to do everything you can to make sure that it's easily received and processed by the other person. Okay. So those are a couple of different things. Um, and so again, why am I talking about this? Why do you, if you've been listening to me for a while, why do I sound like a broken record? Focusing on relationships is one of the habits that you need to be focusing on, and you have to be consistent and you have to be diligent in doing that. Because if you're not focusing on the relationships, it shouldn't be any surprise why you have challenges in your relationships. And if you don't want those challenges, you have to be the one that is consistent in focusing on developing and maintaining those relationships. Okay. Now, I just did a 3-part series on my Jamming with Jason podcast that talked about some of these habits that people who are confident and successful, the habits that they are practicing. Focusing on relationships is one of those. Okay, so if you haven't checked out those podcasts, you can check them out at jasonmefford.com/jamming with Jason. So all of the current episodes are there in the top, and there are also links to all of the older podcasts down below. And we have over 200 different podcasts on that particular podcast as well that you can listen to. So if you haven't already done that, you'll want to go out and check that out. Like I said, you can either find it on my website or really any podcast player app that you listen to. You can also find it there because we're distributed pretty much everywhere, including YouTube and Stitcher and Apple and Spotify and Podbean, and I can't even list them all. iHeartRadio and lots of places. Okay, so that's why I wanted to come on here today. And as normal too, if there's any comments or questions from people that have been listening, make sure and type them in. Let me know that you're here with me live. I can hang out for a few more minutes. But again, I got lots of stuff I got to do too. So if nobody that's listening has the guts or courage to actually post a comment, ask a question, then I'm going to sign off here very soon. So again, if you're here with me, let me know that you're here with me. If you have questions about what I've been talking about in this video, let me know. Or really, if you have any other questions at all that you think I can answer or that you want me to answer, post them in the comments right now. So right? And I know there is a little bit of a delay sometimes with the comments coming through because, again, we are simulcasting out to lots of different places on Facebook, on LinkedIn, as well as YouTube as well. So if you're here with me, let's chat, right? So put something in the comments area. And if not, then I'm going to get back to my day. I might go pick up my guitar over Facebook. This is always backwards too. So it's like, all right, where's my finger supposed to go? Right there, right there, right there. All right. Well, again, trust that you found value in listening to this video today. And if you're listening to this afterwards, again, do the same thing. Type in the comments area any questions that you have, because I come back to the posts afterwards as well, and answer your questions in the comments area. If I can't really answer it or do it justice in the comments, then I'll write it down, and that'll be one of the topics on a future live. So with that, have a great day, everybody, and we'll catch you the next time I'm here live or on any of the social media platforms. See ya.